Good evening, good morning, depending on your time zone. Welcome to the Bahamas Mind and Body Project. Here with myself, your host Eliot Kelly, and we have the pleasure of having Mr. Ancilleno Davis with us. Ancilleno is a husband, a father, a scientist, an artist, an explorer, and a video gamer, and he's given us a lot of character there. So we will be digging deeper into that. For those persons who are just joining us, and if you've never been with us before, to get in contact with the show, you simply email us at info@bahamasmindandbodyproject.com. That's info@bahamasmindandbodyproject.com. A special congratulations to those persons who had a chance to go out and exercise their franchise and make a vote in the referendum. So thank you for taking advantage of that opportunity. Today, we're going to be looking at conservation. Both Ancilleno and myself are interested in sustainability. So we will be looking at the three pillars, which are the environment, economics, as well as we will be looking at society, social issues, social impact. And we will look around general themes of education in the Bahamas, opportunities and challenges for local students that would potentially want to go abroad. So Ancilleno, just if we may start, we'll look at education first of all. Tell us a little bit about your educational experience and transition.
So my educational experience, I grew up in the Bahamas, Catholic schools, primary and high school, St. Francis and Joseph up there on Boyd Road, and then St. Augustine's College, Big Red Machine. And then I did a 2-year degree at the College of the Bahamas. While there, I got the Marilu Tolo Award scholarship. So that was a partial scholarship, and put myself through with additional, of course, help from Mummy. Shout out to Mummy. And I worked at the Humane Society and R&D Cinemas back then. After that, I got the opportunity to do some research around the Bahamas through the Kirtland's Warbler Research and Training Program, which was supported by the Bahamas National Trust, the Nature Conservancy, and U.S. Forest Service. So it was an international partnership. And after that, I got onto the Bahama Parrot program in Abaco. And so I did some research there, and I was offered a scholarship to do my Bachelor's of Science. I did my Bachelor of Science in environmental science with a marine science focus, actually. So I went from birds back to marine science, which I really loved. And then I was offered a fellowship for my master's. So I did my master's, my master's in marine, estuarine, and environmental science. And both of those I did at the University of Maryland, Eastern Shore.
Okay.
So after that, I returned home, and interestingly enough, I had 3 degrees, Associate of Arts, Biology with Chemistry from College of the Bahamas, my Bachelor of Science and Master of Science from UMES, University of Maryland, Eastern Shore, and I couldn't find a job. Okay. So I was here for about 6 months, and my mom's neighbor actually offered me the first job that I got, and that was with Marine Works, and they do great work. But you know, it was a manual labor position, and then I went to work for the Atlantis Hotel as a scuba diver. So again, still not using my degree, but through that, I was able to get onto the Kersner Marine Foundation Blue Project. With the Nature Conservancy and the Bahamas National Trust, Brief, and the Atlantis. They were all partnered on this coral reef conservation and education project. And I got to work with the Nature Conservancy, which is, you know, this huge organization, global organization. And I came, they allowed me to do a lot of personal development and professional development. I became a scuba instructor, CPR and first aid instructor, reef resilience instructor, Atlantic and Gulf rapid reef assessment instructor, reef check instructor. And so I was learning all of these different ways to know the world and see the Bahamas. And I was coordinating these projects and trying to find Bahamian scientists that could take part in this. But then I also came to find that we didn't know where they were. you know, there are some people with the skills and they were lost and stuff like that. And so I proposed, you know, getting all these people together, tracking them down, keeping them in a database. And the partners, I talked to a whole bunch of partners, you know, government, nonprofit, College of the Bahamas. There was no funding, no personnel. And so eventually I started Beings. It's on Facebook, Bahamians Educated in Natural and Geospatial Sciences. And the acronym spells Beings. And we have a page and a group. And so I reached out like that, and people just came out of the woodwork to share opportunities for science and education. All the Bahamian nonprofit or conservation organizations now share on there. And that's kind of a long way of saying, through that, I eventually found my PhD opportunity here at Miami University in Oxford, Ohio, where I'm studying now. And I'm studying for my PhD in ecology, evolution, and environmental biology.
Thank you for that. So would it be fair to say, Ancilleno, that these experiences all led up to this opportunity, or were your positioning a part of you having that opportunity? How did that work? Do you think it was chance, or explain a little bit more how that works? Because I've never been down the road you travel, so clearly you can give us a better explanation.
You know, I've come to realize that at any point in time, you can only make the best decision available to you at that point in time. And so, yeah, it always leads you somewhere, right? And then, you know, wherever you get, you again have to make the best decision possible from there, right? I know now that everything that I did led me to here.
Okay.
Sometimes I tell people, if I wasn't borrowing fish from the Royal Botanical Gardens, I wouldn't have my son. I wouldn't be doing a PhD right now. And this was back in 2001. I went into the botanical gardens to get some fish out of their pond. And I spoke to Eric Carey, who's now executive director of the Bahamas National Trust. And he told me point blank, Lino, you need to do something better with your life. And so he's the one who invited me onto the Kirtland's Warbler Research and Training Program. And all that came from me going to, maybe it was that specific day that he was there, you know what I mean?
Okay.
And so all of these things are what could have led to that. But through the years, there's been tons of things that at the time I might have been disappointed. At the time, I might have thought that this was the best thing ever. But, you know, life keeps changing. Life keeps getting better.
Certainly. Thank you. Now, Ancilleno, I think it would be fair for us to say that you have a thirst for education. Just putting
it mildly, I think.
Yes, just putting it mildly. Very conservative there. But what drives that? Why?
Well, you know, everywhere I look, there's a lot of people that are disappointed, you know, that haven't achieved their fullest potential. There are people that are struggling with all sorts of things. They don't have the income they feel they deserve. They're not surrounded by people that they think are doing them well. In my life, I've met so many awesome people. I mean, my wife I wouldn't have met if I hadn't gone to university. The people that I've worked with at the Nature Conservancy, Bahamas National Trust, these people, you know, decades older than myself, people that are just coming out of high school now that I got to meet because of these activities, and just like really amazing people. So yeah, I think, you know, there's a lot going for having this thirst for education. It's gonna get you to meet a lot of new people. Yeah, the money is part of it, but also I wouldn't change it for the world. I've traveled to 11 countries, all because of conservation or science. I've met hundreds of people. Some I probably can't name right now, but they've all like impacted me or affected me in some way. And that, I think, continues to drive me, like knowing that there's another adventure around the corner and it's like following those adventures or looking for this this new challenge is what's really going to help me get there.
Certainly. Now, you spoke about challenges then, and it actually did lead us into our next question. And you making the transition between these different organizations, as well as from where you are to where you were to where you are now, there would have been some challenges. Tell us one of those experiences and how you overcame it.
You know, I think some of the biggest challenges for Bahamian students transferring into the U.S. is definitely the financial aspect. There are scholarships available to Bahamians. Of course, you know, you don't have to come to the U.S. There's more opportunities in Commonwealth nations or around the world. But I think the first thing that the first hurdle that Bahamians have is just knowing that it's there. You know, someone could tell you go and capture your dreams, but if you don't even know that this is possible for you, there's a lot of students inside the government high schools or even in primary school now, in any primary school, they're good in science, they're good in math. Their teachers are going to tell them, oh, you should be a doctor, right? Maybe you should be a dentist. Maybe you should be a veterinarian. But there's no primary school teacher there. At least when I was growing up, there wasn't a primary school teacher that was like, you know, you should go and wander around in the forest looking for birds, right? So like that wasn't in our mindset. And I guess that's the first challenge that we have to get over. We need to let the youth know that this is possible. This is something that's necessary for the Bahamas. We need this type of knowledge. Also that they're capable of attaining this type of knowledge. They're capable of leading to find this type of knowledge, and that they can be successful in other areas through doing this. So when I go back and I speak to people in the Bahamas, I show them, you know, I might be slim, but I ain't skinny. You know what I mean? I'm not starving. We live a pretty good life. My family here. Yeah, everybody has their stress and debts and stuff like that, but we're happy and we're doing what we enjoy. You know, so I think that's the first thing. Let people know that it's out there. The second is, you know, you gotta dedicate. If you want to make it happen, that next hurdle, that's your internal hurdles. That's for you to say, I have to dedicate this time to make it happen. This time, this energy, whatever resources you have. And then I think it's a responsibility as a community to put value on these types of things. You know, every time I go back to the Bahamas, I speak to a different person. Usually it's a Bahamian that, you know, they're convinced that there'll always be fish in the sea. You know, there'll always be more because that's what more means. Yeah. I'm like, you know, it doesn't really work like that. And kind of getting people to understand that, you know, I'm studying this. I understand this. I'm learning about this, and I'm willing to teach you about it. To teach anyone that listens, really. But that we as a people need to put more value on this science education, conservation, knowledge of ourselves, our country, the world around us, and even like our position in the global forum as well. Because the Bahamas is doing some pretty big things, like the 2020, the Caribbean Challenge. That was a big thing for a tiny little country like the Bahamas to say, hey, world, we challenge you to protect 20% of your nearshore marine resources. That's a big deal, and we're actually doing it.
Certainly.
So actually putting the protections behind what we said we'd do and what we challenge these other countries to do. So I think those are our three challenges. Let the youth know that it's possible. Help them to overcome those hurdles within themselves to push forward for it, and then respecting it as a community respecting education and the pursuit of education as a community.
Certainly. Thank you very much. And I definitely resonate. Just to piggyback on what you said there, I'm letting the youths know what is available to them. Some of the feedback we've gotten to the show via email was that some of the persons who wanted to participate in the referendum, and by no means is this show political, left or right, but we're generally speaking about being informed. A lot of persons in the general public were not aware of what the intricacies of the yes or no vote were. And I think that stems from an understanding. So there are some issues there that need to be identified when you speak about them knowing what's available. They also need to know what their options are locally before they could even venture internationally. I think that would help. You also took on a responsibility when you said you're prepared to share with anyone who is interested in listening to you. And I think a lot of, again, commendation to you for that attitude. A lot of our students that have gone abroad, they're prepared to show others the limited knowledge that they know. I think it was one of the authors who say, the more you learn, the more you realize that you don't know anything at all. And that's a phase that I've gotten to. But again, we are prepared to help those persons that are interested in learning. So thank you for that. You mentioned that Eric may have served in a mentoring capacity some way, somehow. Were there any other mentors?
I have so many. The funny thing is, my mentors aren't always older than me. You know, I definitely like to say, like Eleanor Phillips at the Nature Conservancy. She's amazing. She's done a lot to really support me, even when I'm like saying something against the government at the time or something like that. If she's one of those people that if you're doing right, if you're being honest and true to yourself and what's best for the country, for the people, she's got your back. And so I'll always respect her and appreciate her for that. When I was working for the Nature Conservancy, there's a kid, Scott, I forget their last name right now, Scott Roberts.
Okay.
And his dad owns Native Sun Plant Nursery. And I was helping to coordinate the Bahamas Million Tree campaign. And so his dad was donating a lot of native plants and stuff. And at St. Andrews, we made a butterfly garden.
Okay.
And this kid, he was like maybe 11 or 12 at the time or something like that. And he said, Dad, they're going to do this native plant garden. We need to make benches out of casuarina trees for that garden. And so this little kid, he knew what was important, right?
Okay.
And he knew kind of the skill set that he had and the resources that he had in his dad and in the ability to make these benches and to use the casuarina, which is an invasive species, and to use it as kind of a teaching moment. And he also wanted a nice place to sit under a shady tree at his school, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just the most amazing thing to see a young kid like that really say, this is how I want to give back,
make a contribution,
to my community, right? And he pulled his parents in, and they got it done. And so that for me, I'm even getting a little choked up, like just remembering that moment, being there with him as he dedicated the benches. And it's like, it's really cool. And he just graduated, so congratulations to him and his family. So to know that I was there to see that, and he showed me that anyone can give of themselves and anyone can make their community better. I think that was one of the really good mentoring experiences that I've received from just about anyone. You know, that it is not a very specific thing, like teaching me how to do this technique or something. But it was really important for me to be able to see that in someone younger than myself as well.
That's very empowering and deep there. I think emotionally, there is a learning there as well. A lot of times we feel, like you said, that we don't have anything to give, or anything to offer. And it's humbling that he was able to orchestrate all those things and, you know, make it happen. So definitely congratulations on his graduation ceremony. And I'm sure he'll continue to be a light to other younger and older students. All right.
Yeah, definitely.
You mentioned earlier that you're interested in the three pillars and the effects, the environmental, economic, and social impacts in the Bahamas. Tell us a little bit more about your role in that and your views.
So I definitely see sustainability as having, you know, social, economic, and environmental elements. Socially, with the founding of beings, I recognize that it was difficult. That, you know, students didn't know that science was a thing. You know, conservation was a thing in the Bahamas. Developing that community and starting beings, I started it as a page, a Facebook page, and invited people. And I would post opportunities. I would invite people to share opportunities. And you know what? It topped out at about 200 members.
Okay.
Then I decided to make a group. So on Facebook, the groups, everyone can interact. Anyone can post, anyone can respond to any post. So I started them in 2011, and I invited 50 of my Facebook friends at first. This last time I checked, it's like 938 members on our group page, and on our group, and then on our page we still around 250. So you could see that starting this social movement,
yes,
as opposed to just putting another platform where people could come and get information. Now, if you go to the Beings group, you have Bahamas National Trust is posting, Bahamas Reef Education and Reef Environment Educational Foundation, Reef is posting, Nature Conservancy is posting, Andrews Conservancy and Trust is posted, Re-Earth. Every conservation organization in the Bahamas has some content up there. There's information on birds, insects, training, scuba diving, scholarship opportunities, job opportunities. Everything is on there. And now on the Facebook page, you know, I would have to go there, you know, regularly. Now I don't even have to look at it because I know that it's become its own entity. I talk to people here in the US and they're like, oh, 900 members, that's cute. And I'm like, yeah, in the Bahamas, that's like if we took the entire population of Washington, D.C. and got them to move to help each other.
On a movement, yes.
Right, on one movement. So to get them to think on that scale for the Bahamas, that's a huge thing.
Yes. And
it impresses me so much that now I'm seeing, you know, there are some students through our page, they connected to scholarships to go to university. I myself, I'm here because I'm on a scholarship that was posted through, well, indirectly, but through that page. There's so much power to this social movement, and it's sustainable because you have it where there's multiple generations, there's multiple different organizations posting, and there's this back and forth, this real interaction, and it's so genuine, it's so natural that it's going to keep going and sustain itself.
Yes.
And now, like, I also look at the economics. So we're talking about sustainability. We have that social sustainability. Economically, I know that I wouldn't have the funds to create a website that would do the same thing, right? I would love to, but it's just it wouldn't have been feasible for me.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went to the partners, they all said the same thing. We don't have the money for that. We don't have the personnel. We can't pay someone to do that. So that's why I turned to Facebook at first. I said, you know what? Facebook free. So I went to Facebook and I got this thing started. And in my whole life, probably after my son and getting married, it's one of the proudest things that I've ever done. To be able to start a movement like that, where so many people could be connected to so many opportunities, and that's lasted. It's kept going, and it's made it through. Things die when that political party goes out of power in the Bahamas. But this has lasted through these changes, and that I think is really important. That sustainability, and economically, it's been a benefit, because now you have Bahamians that are in that group that are off to do their masters, off to do their PhD, and that are actually coming home. So now, instead of the Bahamian government paying exorbitant fees to these external agencies that are, pay us $1 million, and then we'll come down to the Bahamas, we'll ask some Bahamian people what's going on, then we'll write it up and sign our names.
Send you a report and sign the name.
Right, and then you'll have your report for $1 million, but that has a foreign person's name on it, so that you could then get what you need from when Shell, or when an oil tanker or something like spills or something like that. Yeah, we have to import that expertise, that knowledge. But now we're gonna have Bahamians doing it, right? So we can keep that money in country. Instead of us outsourcing all of this really important work that we need to go on. And of course, environmentally, I usually save that for last, because if you come out of the gate with environmental sustainability,
everybody walks out the seminar.
It's closed.
Yeah.
Environmentally, I want my son to be able to grow up and see the Bahamas.
Yes.
I've already been scuba diving as far west as the Key Sal Bank. Not many Bahamians could say that. As far north as Grand Bahama, as far east as San Salvador. I haven't scuba dived in Anagua yet, but I can get this one.
All right.
But yeah, I've done a lot of diving, bird watching. Like I said, I've traveled to 11 countries now. It's really interesting to see the amazing diversity of the environment around the world.
Yes.
It's something special.
We do.
Yeah, and we need to protect it. A few years ago, they were harvesting sea cucumbers in Andros, and most people don't know, but our sand is white because parrotfish are pooping and sea cucumbers are pooping. Right. So if you don't have those two things,
yes,
you're ruining the environment. And at that time, the people who were making the decisions, they didn't have that knowledge.
Sure.
So our environmental sustainability, when tourists come to the Bahamas, they want to see a white sand beach, a pink sand beach. They don't want to see a dark brown sand beach. They have that in the States.
That's correct.
You know what I mean? They have these different color beaches around the world. But those white sands that you see from space and you say, oh, that's the most beautiful water in the world, that's the Bahamas. And, we need to protect that environment that we have. It's only one Bahamas, So I do try to keep them all together. But that's my heartstring, I think.
Yeah, definitely my baby as well. So I feel your passion there. One of my issues is I think there's the knowledge is becoming a little bit more aware that the talent and the expertise are actually there or can be Bahamians, but those persons aren't always selected, and I think that's where our issue is at the moment. What happens when they pay this gentleman, person X, $1 million or pounds? I feel that this gentleman doesn't necessarily have a vested interest in the Bahamas if he's not from there. Now, I can't scientifically prove that, but I just have a funny suspicion that a person who is native has a little bit more interest in his environment as opposed to someone who's from Canada or someone who is from Australia. It's just not the same interest. So I definitely share that. Socially, I think you spoke about the sustainability of these platforms like social media using Facebook. Obviously, we're on a Zoom platform now. This product, this information, this valuable content will go on to generations that will outlive us. I don't like to say that, but it may outlive us being here. And that's very important. Persons that have written academically like yourself, your writing will go further than you will ever go. It will go into places that you will never go as well. You may meet persons in the airport and getting engaged with a next academic, and you end up talking about sustainability, and he may say, "Oh, I've read your piece," you know, and that happens all the time. People may see something you've put in a Tourism Today or something that you've put in the Nassau Guardian or the Tribune. So it's very important that we embrace social media as well as these platforms. You've spoken about the benefits of social media, but do you feel then that there is somewhat of a wave or a transition happening now with our youth and social media as we relate to sustainability? Is there some sort of movement?
Well, with the social media, I do think that there's an element of social sustainability. And when I say sustainability, I think of something sustainable as being something that you could continue to do, and it won't impact
future generations.
You're right, future generations' ability to obtain the resources that they need. On social media these days, I do see kind of a deterioration of a lot of cultural norms. Spelling, of course, is the first thing to go on social media. That type of personal presentation as an educated person. I think today's youth are finding it difficult to do that on social media. They spell things incorrectly. They dress or take inappropriate photos. They share content that they would not watch in front of, or at least we in our generation would not have watched in front of our parents or with our parents. And they kind of glamorize these different lifestyles that we would not have taken part in, like drug culture, violence, things like that. And it's easy to do on social media. Really, I post a lot of content on social media. I'm kind of particular with how my security settings are, who I invite, what posts I allow on my timeline. But at the same time, I see so many people that are not at all very cautious or careful about what they post. And I do have a concern for how our youth are portraying themselves in the future. I'm trying to inspire a lot of youth to go off to college, to university. And I know that if I was looking for a new student to represent my university, a lot of them wouldn't make the cut because of their social media personas.
Yes.
And that is definitely a concern to me. And there's a few posts on the Beings page about that in particular, reminding our Beings members, to present themselves appropriately, to present themselves in a way that I would feel comfortable inviting you to live on a research vessel with me for 2 to 3 weeks. You know what I mean?
Certainly.
Right. If I want to respect you as a scientist, I need to know that you're not beholden to any drug addiction, that you're not a person that's given to random bouts of, violent outbursts or something like that. That's something automatic. That's a personal thing. Right. I think that's respectable and, understandable. But I think a lot of students have a difficulty these days, kind of separating those things and kind of thinking to the future. And that's what sustainability is all about, thinking forward about what this action today is going to do to you or the people around you or your community in the future.
Certainly. Thank you. We're going to wrap up shortly, but we're just going to get a few more questions in. We want to say, if you joined us, welcome again to the show. Thank you for the feedback, those persons who did leave feedback. Ancilleno, how can persons get in contact with you if they wanted to ask you questions post-show or maybe get some consultation from you?
If people want to reach out to me, they can find me on Facebook. And now with the new Facebook handles, you can use @Ancilleno. On Twitter, I'm @Ancilleno. And in general, if you use Google or a search engine to find me, just put in Ancilleno Davis and I'll pop up. I'm like the one, Ancilleno Davis. But yeah, I'm pretty easy to find, and just send me a request, and I'll share more of my contact information with you to post on to Eliot Kelly TV as well.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for the plug as well. I'm just send a shout out to Christy Rutherford, who just released her book, Shackled to Success. That's Shackled to Success. If you haven't gotten that link off of my Facebook page, please do. It's an awesome book. That's Shackled to Success, is also available on Amazon, and I'll put a direct link on my page. Our quote for the day is, "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself." The only thing we have to fear is fear itself, and that's by FDR, Franklin Roosevelt. What has been your greatest success today, Ancilleno?
My greatest success today? Really, Leonardo got baptized. My son got baptized this past Saturday, and being able to, get to this point where my wife and I felt we were ready to have a child, and that we were doing things to make the world a better place for him to be in. I think that's really important. Beings is very important. Being here doing my PhD is very special. But knowing that, I'm striving to make the world a better place that's appropriate to bring up the next generation in, and having Leo here to remind me every day that, I have to work at it. I think that's been very important for me.
Thank you. And what future skills would you say our Bahamian youth should be trying to get so that they are on the cutting edge and globally competitive?
Well, for Bahamians especially, please learn to swim. It's very likely that our country is going to be underwater, in another couple generations. So we need to make that important thing. But I think as Bahamians, we need to learn to respect and be tolerant of other cultures. As a nation that's, sitting on tourism and this bed of tourism, we need to think about multiple languages and cultural intelligence. So understanding that people do things in different ways, people speak differently, to respect that and appreciate that, but also be able to deliver our culture and our understandings of the world to those people in their languages or via their culture, their appropriate avenues. I think that's what we need to learn the most as Bahamians.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Just our joke of the day is actually from your website. I know you're going to laugh. All right. Do you know why scuba divers hold their mask and roll backwards off the boat into the water? And the answer
yes, I definitely know.
And the answer is because if they roll forward, they will land in the boat. We really, really like that one. I just couldn't stop laughing. All right, so we're going to wrap up today. Thank you for joining our show with your host, Eliot Kelly. This is the Bahamas Mind and Body Project. Guests, thank you for coming with us. You could have been anywhere else in the world. You decided to spend some time with us, and we don't take that for granted. Our quote ending would be, "The best way to predict the future is to create it." And that's by Peter Drucker, my management guy. I love him, Peter Drucker. The best way to create the future is to actually just go out and do it. All right. So you go out and you make yourself shine. Thank you again, Ancilleno. Just hold the line for us. Thank you to our guests.
Thank you.